Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So today we are going to take a look at a very important fundamental investment question, which is that should you invest in Indian banks, right? This is a very important topic to cover because if you are betting on any country's economy, then which is that one sector where you should definitely invest? These would be banks. If you are a firm believer that 10 years from now or 20 years from now, India will massively expand its GDP, then you have no other option but to simultaneously believe in the narrative that Indian banks or the Indian banking industry will also grow at least proportionally compared to its GDP. So in line with this, let me ask you a very simple question and please answer in the comment box. And just to make our discussions more streamlined, I will be answering and putting up these answers of the questions that I ask in the description box and the pinned comments. After 3 or 4 hours, the video goes live. So the question is that why do you think that the Indian government can't let domestically systematically important banks, DSIB, go bankrupt? So why is it that if HDFC Bank, for some reason, if it goes bankrupt, so why can't the government just sit on the sidelines? Why it would have to save banks like HDFC, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank? Why is that the case? Do comment your answer. I would love to read it. I will also get to understand that you're learning something from my videos and it would encourage me to keep making such videos. And please press the like button and we will get today's video started. So today we are going to cover 3 important points about the banking system in India. Number 1, we are going to understand how many types of banks are there and a general overview of the banking industry. This is very important for you to understand because accordingly you will have to make investments in the stock market. Second, we are going to cover some of the key trends that are happening in the banking industry and I will talk about those trends. So this will help you do a prognosis as to whether the banking industry or banking sector in India will grow or shrink, and you can accordingly make bets. And third and finally, I'm going to outline the names of 6 specific banking stocks that I'm bullish about, and I will give you a homework, right? So please complete the homework also in part 3. In case you're super excited about the homework, you can skip the entire video, just look at the homework, that is also okay. But please participate in that homework exercise as well. So let's get this video started. So let me give you a quick analytical overview of the banking industry, some of the things that you might not have thought of as of now, right? So first and foremost, in terms of the overview of the banking industry, you need to understand that why are banks very important, right? Why are banks important? So there is something called as velocity of money, right? So velocity of money, this is an economic concept. And if you love me teaching economic concepts, do comment what type of economic concepts you would want me to teach. I would love to do a separate video on that. So velocity of money means what? So velocity of money in simple terms means that let's imagine a scenario where your friend gives you 2000 rupee note, right? You take that note and you are a penny pincher and you go and deposit that in your bank, right? So how many times has this 2000 rupee note exchanged hands, right? So your friend gave it to you, right? And you gave it to the bank. So essentially the number of times, so the velocity is somewhat 2, right? I'm not getting into the economic side of it. So please economists, please do not comment random stuff. So essentially this is what velocity means. Now as a bank passes this 2000 rupee on to a business, right? Now this business pays salary with this same 2000 rupee note, right? So this person goes and buys Maggi with this 2000 rupee note. I don't know how many Maggis will come, but a lot of Maggis. So he'll buy a bucket full of Maggis. So the point is that banks act as a very important agent or a stakeholder in terms of improving this velocity of money. So the money keeps changing hand massively. Otherwise, if banks were not there in a growing economy like India, you would have just taken money from your friend and you would have kept it under your mattress and that's it, done, right? So the velocity of money would have been very low. So please keep this in mind that this is the central functioning of the bank, and if someone asks you that, hey, what is the one great thing that the banks do? Give them an economic answer. The economic answer is that they help improve the velocity of money, which leads to growth, which leads to good things, right? So that is the simple functioning of the bank, that whatever money they get, they pass it on to small businesses, big businesses, corporates, people like us. And we go and spend that money and that business propels, right? So that is the simple functioning of the bank. If the banking system of any country is poor, the velocity of money goes down and the growth would not happen. So it is very important for you to understand that the growth of a country is contingent literally upon its banks and how transparent, trustable the banking systems are. Now, if you look at the India's landscape, there are essentially or predominantly 4 different types of banks that exist. Now, there can be 100 different categorizations of banks. I'll not go through each of those. But from a stock market investor perspective, you must understand that there are 4 different types of banks that you can potentially pick and invest your money in. So the first bank that you can go and invest your money in is called as PSU, Public Sector Bank. Now these would be banks like Canara Bank, Punjab National Bank, State Bank of India, and all these names that you are very, very familiar with. Now what is the primary advantage of a PSU? You will say that, you know what, it is backed by trust because these are government owned. We trust them. Our grandparents trusted these banks. My mom, personally speaking, she worked with Punjab National Bank. So we feel very proud when you are buying PNB stocks. So the point is that that level of trust is there with these PSUs, right? Which even HDFC Bank would not command for whatever reasons. But this is the primary advantage of banks, that if you go and speak with people from tier 2, tier 3 cities, villages, they would always prefer to open their bank account with a PSU, right? Because the trust that people have on the government, it's mind-boggling. So that is there. Now, do you think that as a common citizen of India, you should place so much trust on PSU banks? Now, here is a question. We have all heard of big boy billionaires. We have all heard of Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi. So from which banks did these guys take the loan and run away? So comment in the comment box which were these banks. So the point that I want to illustrate from this brief story is that yes, the advantage of PSU banks is that there is a lot of trust, but there is a lot of mismanagement as well. And I'm going to check your answers. So please comment, right? That which banks did Nirav Modi and Vijay Mallya take money from and run away, right? So there is a lot of mismanagement, and this problem was very big before 2015, 2016ish period, because after that, when this Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi case happened, the government started tightening its screws. They have been actively changing the management, right? They have brought in a lot of fiscal responsibility, budget management acts, a lot of changes have happened. Now you would say that, hey Akshat, you know what, this is like drama. So every time there are people like Nirav Modi, Vijay Mallya, they abuse the banking system and they run away with money. There is some theatrics that is done and then we are back to square one. Yes, it has happened many a times in the past and probably it will happen in the future also. I don't know. But there are certain systemic changes that are happening with PSU banks, right? What are these changes? One is that the PSU banks are becoming more and more digital, right? So it's not easy to get the loan approved. There are multiple authorities that are overseeing the functioning of PSUs. The management of PSUs is becoming more and more corporate-like. So the changes are being instituted. Now I'm not saying that no such scams are going to come out ahead in the future. They might not. I don't know. I hope not. But the frequency of those scams will definitely come down. Right? So that is something that I am also betting on, that there has been a systemic cleanup post 2015-2016 period. Right? So, should you be an investor in PSU banks? So yes, according to me, and I will show you in section 3 which PSU banks I will be betting big on, or I am already betting big on, and I will give you a more elaborate explanation when I make part 2 of this video. So this is about PSU bank, and this is the first key type of bank that you need to keep in mind, which is very active in India. The second type of banks, which we all know, are private banks. Right? Private banks. Now you need to understand that what is the primary USP of private banks. Now you can simply understand this very, very fundamentally by asking yourself a very simple question. That if you have an option of opening your bank account with HDFC Bank or ICICI Bank vis-a-vis Punjab National Bank or SBI Bank, why would you go and open your account with HDFC or ICICI? The reason would be that the services offered are good, right? So that is the reason why we do it. Now, our service is really good. Okay. So, I have accounts in almost all of these banks. And honestly, even the private sector banks, they suck, right? In terms of services, it's a nightmare to get stuff done from them. It's a very slow process. I personally do not like it, but do I like it more than PSU banks? 100% yes, right? So, a very quick story here. So, I have an account in Bank of India and I was trying to get the net banking activated. It took them 3 months to get it activated and I still can't use it for some reason or the other, because sometimes I don't get the OTP. I get the OTP, then I can't use it, whatever, right? So it's a nightmare to use it. I moved to HDFC Bank. Am I 100% very happy with it? No, right? But I think that is the scenario with everyone, that we will never be completely happy with our banks. This is a necessary service, therefore we undertake it. But to cut the long story short, the private banks, be it HDFC, be it ICICI Bank, in service level and service competence level, support system, customer service, these private banks are definitely better than public sector banks. Now, there are a couple of important points that I would like to outline about private sector banks. One is that if you look at these very large private sector banks, be it HDFC, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, they are catering more towards middle class, upper middle class and rich class. Right? So that is what their core audience is. Now, where do mostly rural people interact and engage with? For taking loans, they go to something called a small finance bank, which we are going to speak next. But just to cover the entire spectrum here, the primary target group for HDFC, Axis Bank are what? They are businesses. They love giving loans to businesses. This segment is called as wholesale banking. This wholesale banking is a very important work area for these commercial banks, and they actively reach out to businesses to give them loans. The second key feature of these private banks is that they thrive on something called as end-to-end operating system. So they want to be one-stop shop for everything. For example, I'm a customer at HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank and bunch of other banks. Essentially, they would push me to do FDs, they would push me to buy their mutual funds, they will push me to buy like different products, financial products that they are launching. So these banks are trying to do everything, right? They're also operational in rural segment, expanding their base, opening new branches. They offer like ATM services, whatnot. So these private banks have created this end-to-end system and they are doing things efficiently as they possibly can. Now, the third type of bank are called as small finance bank. Now, small finance banks are a different beast altogether. In the sense, for example, if you take a look at Equitas Small Finance Bank, or if you take a look at Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, their target group is slightly different. They give loans and they give something called as small loans. For example, if you have someone who wants to start a fruit vending stall, now they don't require like lakhs and lakhs of rupees in terms of loans. And if they go to a PSU bank, they will not get a loan. The loan process or loan getting process is very difficult. If they go to a private bank, then the private bank would try to give them a loan which is of a higher amount. So they don't want such a high amount. They want small amount. So they go to small finance bank to avail this type of financing. Now, small finance bank, according to me, are game changers. What used to happen in villages was that there used to be these loan sharks, right? Loan sharks. You might have seen like old Hindi movies that, some brother or some sister used to go and, took some weird loan and then he was paying like a rate of interest of like 30% per month, whatnot, right? So all that kind of stuff. So that was a mechanism that was started by loan sharks and it still is prevalent. It's not a matter to joke about. It genuinely is a very legitimate problem that exists in villages and small cities. And these loan sharks operate very, very heavily. So these small finance banks are proving to be a game changer in that respect. Now, fourth and final type of banks are called as new age banks, right? Or they are also called as neo banks, right? Neo banks. Now, what happens is that they are, in my opinion, they are competing directly with private banks. Because you might have seen that when you open your bank account in a private bank, if you have to issue a checkbook, then you have to pay a bit of money. To maintain your account, you have to pay a bit of money. If you own a current account, so for example, I own current account and I have to unnecessarily keep like 50,000 deposit in my bank. If it goes below that, then they are going to charge me a lot of headache. So private banks are charging you a lot of money. Why? Because they have so many physical branches, they have so many staff. So they have to charge a lot of money in terms of commissions. Now, new age banks are neo banks, which is great for middle class people in the sense that they offer great services. For example, if you need to reissue your debit card, then this can be done at a very low cost. Your account maintenance charges will be very less and bunch of other useful facilities. Now, you might ask that, hey, how are they able to keep the prices low? And why are they offering all these good things that even HDFC Bank is not able to do? The reason is that these neo banks are operating digitally. So therefore, they can offer you a bunch of services, bunch of useful services at a very low cost. So these are new age banks that are coming up in India and they are gaining fast prominence. Many of them work in conjunction with private banks. Many of them operate independently. They are trying to get RBI licenses, but they are thriving on providing efficient services at a very low cost. So I hope you understand that there are 4 different types of banks. When we say that we are going to invest in a bank, it does not mean that we just randomly go and pick any banking stock. You have to figure out, should you buy PSU? Should you buy a commercial bank? Should you buy a neo bank? Should you buy a small finance bank? You need to make a decision accordingly. Now, if this sounds really complex and you don't want to do that stock analysis and all that stuff, but you're very bullish on the banking sector, you can go on Smallcase, type bank and banking privately, and then you can invest in this Smallcase. It's a decent Smallcase. It is a collection of different good banks that are there. So it gives you decent returns and avoids the headache of going individually and picking stocks. Now, in case you don't want to do small case, you want to go and invest your money in individual stock picking, then we move on to section 2, where I will tell some of the key trends that you need to keep in mind, because that will tell you which of these 4 different segments you need to bet your money on. So the first key trend that you need to understand in the banking industry as it is happening in the Indian economy is that the banking industry is growing and it will continue to grow for a significant time. Now, there was an article by Business Today, and I will put it somewhere here, and it categorically says that approximately 45 to 50% of the Indian population still doesn't have internet access. And approximately 20% of the population does not have access to bank account. So there is a long way to go even to bank the entire population. Forget about adding additional layers of services. Of course, when you and me have our bank account, we transact with banks so many times, we pay them commissions, banks become more and more profitable. Right now, 20% of India does not even have a banking system. Almost half the population does not have internet access. So as the internet access becomes more and more, people will engage with banks more. They will avail more services. As they avail more services, banks will become more and more profitable. Now, related point here is that the cost of internet in India is one of the cheapest and the lowest. So India, in terms of democratizing the internet, it has done an amazing job. The cost of internet is very low. These systems or the backend, you might say that, Akshat, a lot of population is not educated. How can they use digital banking? The interfaces that are now being built by companies, it's being built keeping this particular aspect in mind. The UI UX designs are becoming so customer friendly, then I would not be amazed that a lot of people who are not literate, they can do 100% banking through their phones. It should not be an issue. Now this brings us to trend number 2, which is around digital transaction. Now, there is a report that was published by the IBEF.org, and it is a government agency, and essentially it quotes the RBI's Payment System Vision 2021, and it says that the number of digital transactions will increase by 4x. So as 4x number of digital transactions will happen, banks will benefit a lot from it. Now, let me ask you a question, that why is this trend playing out? The reason is that there is a lot of restrictions in terms of black money now. It's not very easy to settle your black money and hide your black money. That's becoming more and more challenging with each passing day. It is not easy to handle black money. Now I have zero experience in it because all my businesses are internet based. But black money, holding black money, doing bad things with black money is just bad, right? So it is getting more and more difficult. So the entire India is moving towards digital India. This is a very clear trend. So as holding black money will get tougher and tougher, people will have to move to digital systems and bank will profit immensely from it, because as you convert black money to white money, where are you going to keep it? You are going to keep it in banks. That becomes a fodder for banks to take and improve what? Improve the velocity of money. So given all these trends, what type of banks you should be banking on? Okay, I said bank too many times. So what type of banks you should be banking on? Essentially, you can bank on any type of banks, right? Be it private sector, be it neo banks, be it public sector bank, be it small finance bank. Because so the entire population is growing. So that means that more and more people will use the banking system. Number 2, the digital penetration is going. People are moving from black money to white money. So that improves the velocity of money and the frequency with which people interact with their banks. So that will go. So more people, more services being availed. That's a recipe for success for any type of bank. And that is the reason why the banking industry is growing at a massive rate. And when people say that they are betting big on the Indian ecosystem, it has got very little to do with the Indian startups. A lot of hoopla is created around Indian startups that we grew X number of unicorns, Y number of unicorns. All that is great. No one is discounting that. But these tectonic macro changes that happen, that the digital penetration is improving, the cost of internet is low, people are getting more and more educated. These are massive trends that make up an economy. Now this brings me to the final part of this video, the most exciting part where I'll assign you an homework. So these are the 6 stocks that I'm bullish about, and I'm going to do a A versus B comparison, and you tell me which stocks you are going to invest. So number 1, in terms of private banks, which one should we pick? Should we pick HDFC or Kotak Mahindra Bank? Let me know your answers in the comment. In terms of small finance bank, should we pick Equitas or Ujjivan Finance Bank? Let me know in the comments. Number 3, in terms of public sector banks, should we pick PNB or SBI? Let me know in the comments. I will make part 2 of this video where I will do a comparison of these 6 stocks and I will share my answer and my investment strategy with you. So I will see you tomorrow. Till then, take care and bye.